everyone. Thank you for joining our little Zoom demo for how to make Bosnian coffee. So my name is Norina, and I am part of the Yugoslav Room Committee.
And my name is Vanessa, and I'm also part of the Yugoslav Room Committee.
Yeah. So we thought, since we can't have the Eastern European Festival this year in person, we figured, let's try to do the demonstration virtually, because last year it was such a hit and people liked watching us do it. And of course they enjoyed tasting the coffee afterwards. So I think that's the only part of the experience that we will not be able to share with you today, but still thank you for joining and supporting us in demonstrating this little piece of our culture. So,
and since you can join us, since we demonstrated, you might want to try it at home.
Yeah, exactly. We're having some kitty distractions here. Kathy is very curious about what we're about to do. So just a quick little background. I think most of you that are connected are familiar with coffee culture in the Balkans. And in most of the countries in the region, the way that the coffee is prepared is pretty similar. There's some slight variations. But today we're going to focus on the traditional Bosnian way of making coffee. So the tradition came, I guess, to Bosnia and to the region in about 15th century, when the region was under the Ottoman Empire. And so the tradition has changed and has been slightly altered again in different areas. But the way that we make it in Bosnia is a little bit different than the way it's made in Turkey, so the traditional Turkish way. The variation is very slight, but it's a big tradition in our country, and it's a ritual that's very important and central to daily life. Having coffee in Bosnia is just like kind of putting a pause on life, and it's usually something that we enjoy. We kind of try to draw out, and it's a time to socialize and again take a break and just kind of enjoy the whole process, enjoy the ritual. So it's not something that we rush, that's for sure. So I think a lot of you already know that, but so with no further additional information here, we're going to start with the demonstration, and we're going to have Vanessa do it because she's much better at it than I am. And she'll kind of go through the little details of, how she does it. And then you guys are welcome to ask questions and discuss with us afterwards.
All right, so let's get started. So over here, we already, just for the time sakes, we already boiled some hot water. So the way I'm gonna start, so I personally like it a little bit stronger than probably most people. So like the size like this, I usually do 3 spoons of coffee.
Right, and so the coffee, of course, the coffee beans are ground, and you can already buy the ground coffee. It's pretty easy. We have a few stores here in Pittsburgh, and I think some other bigger cities in the country as well will have stores where you can already buy the coffee that are from the area, the region.
And it smells really good. I'm sure most of you know, but like we just opened this bag and it smells amazing. So basically, if you want it like virtually, it's still about here. Filled with coffee. So
it's about like where it starts to curve up at the bottom. Yeah, you want to fill it to about that level. So based on the size, of the jezva you have, and so this is called a jezva. It's like the traditional little pot in which you make the coffee. You're going to know how much ground coffee to put in there.
Okay, so now that I have the coffee in there, I'm going to put the boiled water in here. So the way I do it, and I think most of our traditional coffees made, I kind of do it halfway in the beginning, and then put it on the stove and stir a little bit, and I'm just going to wait for about 30 seconds until the coffee rises up.
So when you're stirring, you're kind of like trying to get like the corners, like the edges of the very bottom of the jezva, just to make sure you're getting all the grounds.
So
Yeah.
we'll give it a few seconds.
Right, and so we're using this hot plate, which, yeah, we're hoping will work well. I think it worked well last year. So we just kind of leave it on there until it starts to kind of
like raise up a little bit.
Right.
Which might take a little bit longer because I feel like it takes a little bit longer with this hot stove than the usual.
Yeah. And so I think, so the way that we're making it is, you know, the traditional Bosnian way. I know that traditionally, I think the Turkish way to make it is by adding the sugar already into the coffee as it's on the stove and being made. So we won't be doing that, which is why we've tried to demonstrate at least some of the sweets that usually would go along with the traditional coffee. So when we have the coffee, you know, we'll also accompany it with, you know, some sugar, of course, and we usually do like sugar cubes. Yes, they're in this cute little pot. So the little sugar cubes, you know, usually when you pour the coffee for yourself, you'll want to kind of dip it in and then, you know, put it on your tongue so you can really taste like the coffee flavor and the sweetness of the sugar. And then you drop the rest of the sugar cube into the coffee and you stir it to let it dissolve. So, you know, everyone can kind of customize their coffee if they would like it sweet. They can add milk, but of course, like the way that you should have it is just black with maybe a side of maybe like a cookie or the lokum, which is a special kind of dessert as well that you normally have with coffee.
Okay, so this is finally working. Usually doesn't take this long. If you do it on a real stove, it doesn't take this long. So.
And you can see that it's starting to rise and foam at the top.
Now that it's starting to rise, I'm gonna go.
I wonder if you can show that. Maybe bring it closer so you guys can see the froth. I don't know if you can see that frothiness in there, but the coffee will start to rise, and then the top layer will have this nice little light brown foam, which is exactly what you want.
All right, now that we have that, I'm going to add some more water. I should be doing this.
Yeah. Nice.
So I like to let it sit for a minute just so everything comes, the foam and everything comes down.
That's, oh, sorry. Yeah, no, I just thought while we were waiting, I would ask a quick question. You mentioned being able to get the coffee in Pittsburgh.
Yes. So we have a couple of stores actually, which is great. So there's one, is it on 51?
There's one on 51. I believe it's called the European Market. And there's actually two in Dortmund. What's the market called? J-Mart.
Oh, J-Mart sells stuff. Okay, I always associate them with Uzbek.
And along with Fredo's Deli as well. So they're basically like on the same street as well.
Yeah.
So Fredo's, J-Mart, and the European Mart on 51.
Yes.
Thank you. And while we're waiting, Vanessa, somebody's complimenting your shirt and inquiring about the beautiful painting. What's the shirt about?
So the shirt is basically like a Bosnia soccer shirt that I put on today. So thank you. And the beautiful painting is actually, this is both of our hometowns. So this is the famous bridge in our hometowns. And this is actually a painting that my dad's friend custom made for them. So I think it's been like 15 years that he did that. So he kind of like took little pieces and just custom made the painting for them as a present.
So you can,
that's fun.
Maybe you can't tell, but this is actually like mixed media. It's not just paint, it's made with actual bits of stone. Like Yeah, so it's very heavy.
It's very.
And the ceramic pieces, yes. So it's almost like a little 3D. Once you're really kind of closer, you can really see that there's depth in this artwork. So it's quite unique.
Oh, definitely, and just beautiful. Yeah, you're right. That's been the downside of doing so many things virtually. It's hard not to be in the presence of art to see what it's like, but we can still appreciate it from a distance, as our audience has indicated. Thank you. I just thought while we were waiting, we just, get ahead on the questions.
Thank you.
Oh, and they also want to know how much water was added initially before this next edition.
Well, a little bit over half. I kind of did it up to here.
I don't know if you can see it. Maybe. Just lift that up a bit.
I'll lift it up because it's hot.
Yeah.
I need to love about here. Like a little bit over a half.
More than half.
Thank you.
All right, so we're gonna get started. The first step, I am going to take the foam, like Nadia said, this is like a very important.
Yeah, can you do it?
Yeah, perfect. So I'm going to take the foam off with my spoon and put that in there first.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna pick it up and
So just to show you, there's that little bit in there of that frothiness.
I'm gonna give you some more. So
Thank you.
it's just the two of us. And we have more than enough.
Right, and that's a sign that your coffee should have the right consistency. If there was none of this foam on top, it would probably be it would mean that it's very watered down. Like maybe you put too much water, not enough coffee. So that's usually a good gauge. So when you have a nice layer of foam, it's a really good sign. It makes me very happy.
I'm doing it right.
Yeah, you are. Vanessa's very good at making this, so I always let her do it.
All right.
Thank you. And so that little bit of foam that you put into the cup initially is like what will rise to the top, and so your little cup will also have that foam layer at the top. Nice.
So the next step, you want to start with the sugar?
So we were supposed to have some locum to show you as well. Unfortunately, we don't have that for you today, but so we are just going to have some sugar with our coffee instead. And we have some pastries, and these are some fresh figs that we also brought. We do have a fig tree here in Pittsburgh, so we figured we'd just kind of add them to the set to complete this, I guess, Mediterranean kind of deal. So. I usually just kind of, I guess, suck all the coffee out of the sugar cube, and that tastes very sweet. And then I just drop the rest of it in there, and then I'll stir it around. I'm sorry we can't share this with you. I feel kind of like we're being very self-indulgent, but hopefully sometime in the future we'll be able to do this in person as well.
Because I feel like last year, personally,
Yeah.
I really enjoyed people coming up to us and asking us questions and actually loving the coffee. We made it a few times because individuals kept coming back and asking, is there more coffee? Can we try it again? So
yeah, and then they would just stand there and they would talk to us and they would ask us questions, and that was kind of the whole point anyway. I think it gave people that weren't familiar with the country, a chance to kind of get involved right away with a tradition that's, very important to us, and then ask some questions and have a good conversation. So yeah,
let's see.
Yeah. Oh, that's perfect. That's nice. Do you like it?
Thank you.
Yeah, it's not bitter. It's just right. So it should taste, strong enough, but it should not be bitter. It should not be overwhelming. So it has the perfect consistency, nice flavor, and you can add more sugar if you'd like, but it's supposed to be good to just drink it black too.
And we'll also have like sheets that we have
Yeah.
milk, but I personally also prefer to drink it black.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. So this is like a mini jazva, and yeah, I think traditionally you don't normally put milk, but you know some people like to, so you can also do that. But they come, as you can see, in all shapes and sizes, and sometimes materials as well. Yeah. So, oh, and I also wanted to show. This is kind of an integral part of this entire process. So this is called amlin, and this is a traditional one. We actually brought this with us from Bosnia like over 20 years ago now. I think it was my grandfather's. But they have different, obviously, variations of this as well. And this is the little apparatus in which you would grind the coffee traditionally. So grinding the coffee beans is also part of this whole coffee ritual. So you would usually do it, you would get the beans, you would pour them in there, and you would be sitting with your friend who's going to be drinking the coffee with you, and you could basically make a fresh batch and really have the best quality coffee. So yeah, I thought I would share this as well.
Excellent. Okay, well, thank you so much. There are a couple of questions in the chat, but I think people might speak a little more freely if I stop recording. So even in the chat. So I'll end the recording now and edit some things out, but truly, thank you for doing this, and I will stop recording and walk us through the chat.